This is Python's Paradise. This is Greg Gilbert, host of Python's Paradise, straight out of Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. Although, probably judging by my background, I love Toronto. I consider that my true home because it's a prosperous place, which is something I can't say for New Brunswick. But we're not here to discuss that. Here we are, February the 26th, 2024, a leap year, folks. And it's time to get bitten at least once. At least once. Tommy Kovac from Splat from the Past connected me with this guest, and very much appreciated that because 1985, I would have been turned 13 that year, and that was the year, of course, Fright Night came out, and then on the comical lane you have Once Bitten, and Once Bitten had a song, and it by that title name by a band called Three Speed, and I have the lead singer on the show with me tonight. Folks, welcome Linda Chase. How do you do, Linda?
I'm very good. Thank you so much, Greg, for having me.
Absolutely. I love your hair.
Oh, thank you.
Is that your rocker hair?
Well, it just kind of does its own thing. I have it cut short, so it's easy to take care of, and it just, you know, it's easy.
It's rocker hair.
Why, thank you.
That means when you go out, you could still be cool.
I try, even though I'm old now. So,
Old, you're 39.
again,
Yeah,
again,
you're 39.
again.
I know we've been working at this for a while. I know I've been in touch with you. Tommy Kovac put you in my limelight since last fall, and things kept happening where we had to keep rescheduling. And there's no problem with that because I record these. This is not live. All is good. I often tell podcasters it's always best to record because doing them live, everything can go wrong.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, I was patient with you and I understood, stuff happened like Thanksgiving. So this is how far this goes back.
Wow.
Thanksgiving, you had stuff going on and
Well, it's more that I have a handicapped brother who lives with me. He was head injured in a car accident about God 35 years ago. And
mhm.
when our mom died, I moved him in with me into my home. So I have to not only look out after him, and his head injury caused him to not have much short-term memory. So that's why I had to shut the ringer off my phone because he'll be calling me 5 times. Are you making dinner tonight? 10 minutes later, are you making dinner tonight? So it's difficult, and I have to work during the days, so I have to make all kinds of arrangements, and that contributed a lot to why it took so long for us to finally get this done. But I'm so glad we're finally here.
Well, are you making dinner tonight? I am hungry.
No, no. I made dinner every night the past 5 nights. He's got plenty of food he can put in the microwave himself tonight. I said, I'm doing something for myself tonight.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that. I am glad that you've got that connection. I've had other guests on here who have similar circumstances like that,
It's hard.
Yep. So it is hard. My younger brother was caregiver to my parents, and um, dad has since passed away. He had ALS for 8 years.
Oh my Lord, I'm so sorry to hear that. That's the worst. That is so
Yeah.
difficult. I lost both my parents and my father very early to cancer,
hmm
and my mom, and I took care of her. So, being the family caregiver for cousins and all kinds of people, because, what they do is they say, we'll get Linda to help. She doesn't have a real job. So being in music, they never considered a real job, even though it's all I've ever done. But,
it's interesting, I podcast, but I don't get paid to do this. And it's amazing how many people think this is my job. I actually work 2 cleaning jobs, you
Wow.
know,
Good for
because
you.
yeah, and that's I worked through the pandemic, and
Yep.
right now in 2024, we're looking to get rid of our prime minister. I won't get into too many
I heard
politics there,
No,
but
I heard about that. I used to play in our band before it was called Three Speed. We were called Image, and we used to
mhm,
play in Montreal and Sherbrooke a lot in a lot of schools and clubs. And we were in Canada quite a lot at Canada. We come down from the mountain tour 2 times a year, but we just loved it there. So it's a
yeah,
beautiful country. If in fact, if a certain person gets elected this year, I'm going to move there. So,
Polyev,
huh?
Pierre Polyev.
No, I mean if the person I hate gets elected this year,
Oh, in the States.
yes, in the States.
Oh,
We have a presidential election coming up, and no, we won't talk politics, but yeah, you may have another person trying to get into Canada.
well, you're more than welcome, but you know, I all I could say is I'm hoping Polyev does what he says, because the guy in office right now, I'm not impressed with.
Wow.
Yep. Yep. Not impressed with for many reasons. But nonetheless, I am glad we are able to make this work. Tommy Kovac spoke very highly of you.
I had a wonderful interview with him, and I have to thank him so much for telling you about me. We really had what I thought was a really good time, discussing crazy things and the music business in general, and movies and all kinds of stuff. And I'm really interested in anybody that is interested in anything I might have to say. Ask me anything, and I'll just I'll tell the truth, and if it's entertaining, which I hope it is, but um, then we'll have a good time. I'm easy.
Well, t Tommy often will float guests my way, Have you actually, in the case of Once Bitten, he asked me if I had any guests from it. I said, no, I like that film. And he had suggested you, and he told me about you. And I said, I remember that song, Once Bitten.
Wow,
I
wow.
remember it very well. Yep.
And you were
And yeah, I wasn't familiar with Three Speed, but
Mhm.
I've been getting familiar with it since hearing about it. So, but we're going to allow you to promote your music on here because, I'm going to be 52 this year. So I very much love music from the 60s, 70s, and 80s, some 90s, but for me, 60s, 70s, and 80s are kind of my core for music. Was definitely some 90s, I will say that, but I love seeing a lot of these musicians that are still rocking on, They had a picture up, somebody put a picture up on Facebook, Rolling Stones in 1963,
Yeah.
Rolling Stones in 2023, like,
It's amazing,
yeah.
it's totally amazing, that band. I always thought they were one of the most, just the solid core of the drums and the bass. I mean, rhythm guitar, they're one of the best, even though Mick Jagger doesn't technically have a great voice, it's just a great rock and roll band, and they still are as good, or, maybe even better than ever. And I'd love to see the final tour, but the chances of getting a ticket I can afford to that are about zero. So, you know,
Well, I admire a lot of these bands, AC/DC, even after
oh,
losing Bon Scott, were able to pick up and still go. I
yep,
admire them,
yep,
Alice Cooper's still going,
yep.
I admire
Exactly.
a lot of them.
I think it's great, if you can still do it. My job now consists my job. Well, I'm a producer and I write songs for an occasional TV spot, or I used to do jingles. The drummer of Three Speed and I were we produced over 1,000 jingles in 42 states here in the States in
Hmm.
the past. But so that was like a day job of sorts. And now I'm singing for senior citizens in either memory care units where I'll tell you, these older people, they desperately need music. And my favorite things to sing that they like are 50s, 60s, and 70s music. So it's funny that you said that because I'm a little older than you, but still, I was a little tiny kid when the Beatles came out, and I remember You should have been born earlier if you love 60s music, because I think that's where some of the best music we've ever had came from.
Yeah. So is like Keith Richards in one of those senior citizens homes?
Not yet, but everybody
Pe-
demands that he's still
People
alive.
are shocked he's still around with
Do you know why he said he's still around?
what?
He said he was still around because, and this is in his own book, I believe, it's from his own book. Other people who have sound engineers who have worked with him have told me this too, because all the drugs that he did and anybody else in the band who did any said it was straight from the drug companies. Like he said, thank you, Merck, and whatever the other drug companies work, because everything was straight out of a prescription bottle and there were no nasty things added in by drug dealers, whatever. Everything was pure. And I guess if you do things in a in an intermediate way with all pure drugs, you're not going to die. Well, at least he didn't. So I
He's
just thought that
still,
was kind of crazy,
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm not big on what music has become. It's way too processed today. Although I got to admit, I did enjoy the Taylor Swift concert movie. I enjoyed that.
Yeah,
That was really well done. But a lot of it's so heavily processed today that it's like
yeah.
what they do with their voice, and I don't know what they call that. It's just a
Auto.
lot of it is like, do they actually have any talent?
Well, some do. Taylor Swift doesn't have the best voice, but she is, I have to give her credit. She's an incredible businesswoman. She's a good writer. She's got the best, because she was successful early, she's got the best engineers, the best co-writers, the best engineers and everything that you could have, to and vocal coaches. And she works really hard to make her voice better all the time. And the songs, a lot of the songs are really catchy. I have to give her a lot of credit for what she's done. And she's also, by all accounts, a really nice person, and gave everybody on the whole crew of her tour, including the truck drivers, $100,000 at the end of the tour.
Oh,
Everybody.
wow. I've
So
heard stuff like that about her.
yeah, so people like that, you even want them to sound better than maybe they even do. But you're right about the extra processing nowadays. If you can't sing, as long as you're really good looking and you look great in a video. I think when MTV came out, it was the death knell for a lot of really talented people who just weren't that good looking, and they never were going to get signed after that, because it was more important how you looked than what you sounded like. So
There was something on the news back, gee, it was several years ago now, but they were saying that after, I guess a restaurant was going to be closing up, but for the night, and Taylor Swift and her band were going to go there to eat, and they kept the place open so she could come in and eat, and apparently she tipped $700.
oh my God.
And I'm like, number one, that I mean, it was gracious enough for the restaurant to remain open, but wow, it says a lot about her that she just didn't just, I thank you and go. She really, yeah.
Yeah. I think
And
that's wonderful. You hear stories like that once in a while of people doing that. And you think of the people who work there, they're in service jobs and they don't get paid much. And that probably, when they divided up the money, I'm sure that made everybody, if they have kids or something, that was an extra payment, new clothes, or an extra gift for their kid, whatever. It's like, it's such a wonderful thing just to care enough to do that. You
yeah,
know,
yeah. And I like Katy Perry. I like her sense of humor.
she can
And
sing. She
yeah,
can sing. Lady Gaga too.
I love Lady Gaga. I've heard a lot
One
of
of my
great things about
favorite.
Lady Gaga. And I always had a soft spot for Avril Lavigne as well. So
Oh, she's great. She's fantastic. I always loved her when she first came out, to still now. And she was ill for quite a while, wasn't she, with something
yeah,
like Lyme disease or something?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And of course, one of my favorite Avril Lavigne songs isn't even one of her singles. It was off her second album. It was a song called Together. And I'm
Mhm.
like, I never figured out why that wasn't a single off the album, because I think that was one of the best songs. Of course, Chantal Kraviazik wrote it, and Avril Lavigne performed it, and that is a great song. But nonetheless, uh, I would like to get some of your background and what led you to get into music.
Well, I guess I just came out of the womb singing according to according to the relatives, but I just was born with talent, I guess. My parents took me at like the age of 4 or something. Well, my mother played piano, my father played piano, guitar, um, and clarinet. He played clarinet in the Navy band, as a matter of fact. So it was funny. It was in the family. My grandmother played piano and sang. Um, and so they took us to somebody's house that had a piano, and I just sat down at the piano and started playing songs that were on the radio. And people were just like looking at, does she have a piano at home? Said, no, but not, we will now, and I always had a good ear, and I started writing, and I grew up in Cambridge, Massachusetts, outside of a Baptist church. And all the people would be singing, the crazy, the bring it, hallelujah, all that stuff when I was really little. And they would come out, I would be sitting on the steps and they'd come out and say, I was welcome to come inside, but I was afraid. And my mother, she would pick me up and then take me in and we'd listen. But so I loved R&B and gospel type music from a really young age. And then as I got older and the Beatles were huge and all these bands started coming out in the 60s, and um, I got together with other kids in like 7th or 8th grade, and we put a little band together, and we actually got jobs. And it was so much fun. We were doing things like Tommy James and the Shondells, and songs like that. But and things like "Hang On, Sloopy," if you remember that. And
Did you have a favorite instrument you gravitated
I'm a
towards?
keyboard player.
Keyboard.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
I write on keyboards. And that in the video for Once Bitten, they show me with one of those, you
I
know,
actually I saw that watched that video last night,
yeah.
so
And I've never
um,
actually had one of those. They just used that for a video because they didn't want me hidden behind my usual setup on stage was behind 4 keyboards, including a big Hammond organ and everything. So I play all that stuff. And um, but it didn't make sense for a video where they wanted to show me singing. So they said, well, what if you wear a keytar? So I said, sure,
guitar.
it sounds like fun. And making
Those
that,
things are kind of cool, aren't they?
yes,
Yeah.
you can't do what you're used to doing on one because you really need both hands, but it fit the song perfectly, and it was fun. I had a
Yeah.
ball.
Do you remember the first concert you ever attended?
Ah, God.
For
I
me, it was Glass Tiger back in the late 80s, a Canadian band. I remember
Wow.
seeing Glass Tiger.
I think the first band I ever saw, and I was like maybe 9, 10 years old, was the Beatles.
You saw the Beatles in
Well,
concert?
I don't remember anything about it. I was so little, 8 or 9. My best friend, was our
Yeah.
she had an older sister, and if her parents were going to let her go, she had to take her younger sister and me, the best friend. So they actually had me. You'll love this story. It's really disgusting when I think of it now. But we had somebody in the neighborhood or that our parents knew had a drugstore. They ran a drugstore with one of those places where you could rent wheelchairs and stuff like that, and walkers and all that stuff. Hospital type, crutches, things like that.
Hmm.
So they went and got a wheelchair and then put me in it, going up to the front to the ticket booth to get tickets. And this was when you had to wait in line for hours to buy tickets to anything. And so we sat out there for I don't know how long. And because I was in the wheelchair, they wheeled me right up to the front and we got our tickets right away. It was, I felt so guilty, not really at the time, but I do now.
Did you do the whole Peter Sellers, Dr. Strangelove thing and accidentally stand up and go, it's over, I can walk?
I didn't know, no, and I'm sure I was totally unaware of Peter Sellers at that age. But I remember here in Boston, we had a local radio station, and their big thing was the Beatles are coming to Boston. So we don't want to be screaming over them because no fans could ever hear them, because I think the PA system that I use in my nursing homes was bigger than what they had at Boston Garden back then. I mean, there were no huge concerts back then. It was nothing. They had hardly anything. What you'd have at a small club nowadays. And so I remember everybody on this radio station, all the DJs were saying, we are going to show the Beatles that we care about their music and we're not going to scream. We're going to make confetti, and you can cut up the Sunday comics or whatever and, color and make confetti out of it. And then we're going to throw confetti instead of scream. So my girlfriends and I, my two little friends, had bags full of confetti we brought, and so did everybody else we knew. And so we get there, they start to come out on stage, right? We start throwing the confetti, saying, oh, this is going to be great. We'll actually hear something. And the minute they walked on the stage, everybody started screaming, and it was all over.
Yeah.
Couldn't hear a thing, not one thing.
Do you have a favorite Beatle?
Paul.
Paul McCartney. Still trucking too.
Yeah.
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 Do you have a favorite Beatles song?
Oh,
That's a hard one for me too.
yeah.
I remember when I was young, I remember when I first heard I Want to Hold Your Hand, and I always like that. There's so many of them I like.
I
I
love
it's
some of the ones that George Harrison wrote, the early ones, like I Need You and No Reply, like the real, like maybe the second album or something. Because I always loved harmonies. Instead
Mhm.
of, I love being a lead singer, but if anybody in the band, could sing, it was even better for me. And we ended up, having bands that had four lead singers in it, and so that we could do the best harmonies ever. And that was much more fun to me to hear that sound all together than like the Beatles did, than it was to just listen to one person sing. So I think In My Life is one of my favorites. And I know Paul didn't, well, I think John wrote most of it, but
Mhm.
really, name me a really bad Beatles song, can you?
I can't really off the top of my head. I like the Beatles. They were before me and before I was born, but I remember the vinyls when I was young, so I was certainly aware of them growing up. And I was born in 1972, so they got what that was after they broke up initially. So,
That's
but
right. That's right.
yep,
70, wasn't it? It was 1970. I think they broke up.
yeah,
When you think about it, all the songs they gave us, they weren't around performing that long at all. It was so fast, and I never saw a recording schedule like that with any band. Think about, like Genesis or The Who, anybody other, any other huge band you can think of. They didn't come out with brand new albums, it seems like in months. It was crazy,
yep,
you
yep,
know.
absolutely. Um, Yeah, that's certainly a different time back then, and I certainly I love various styles of music as well. So like I said, 60s, 70s, 80s, and some 90s I really like,
Yeah,
some stuff today. I don't want to dump on everything today because I know I mentioned a few artists there that
yeah,
were after post 2000,
right.
So yeah, I won't come down on everybody, but but nonetheless, how did you get the gig for Once Bitten?
Oh, that actually is a pretty good story. We were doing the band was called Image at the time. It wasn't Three Speed yet. And
Mhm.
we were doing demos, which we got free because we worked at this studio in Rhode Island, a very major studio, and they did people like Journey and New Kids on the Block and all kinds of famous people since they opened up. But the owner used to use us for session musicians, going way back. And when we put the band together and we had original songs, he said, well, I'm going to put up the time, when there's nobody else in here, you can come in and, we'll use one of the other engineers, or I might do it myself, and we'll get you a nice demo put together. So we did that, and somebody who worked at the studio had a friend in LA who worked for Samuel Goldwyn Jr. in the film industry. And he was listening to our demo. He sent his friend the demo in LA, and he was sitting there at his desk listening to something that we did. And Samuel Goldwyn Jr. himself walked by and said, "Who is that woman singing? Is that a band? Is that a solo artist? I want them out here like tomorrow." And that was it. It was like the the old movie stars sitting at the soda fountain.
Hmm.
It was, they were discovered just sitting there because she was beautiful. I forget, several of them, I guess, were Ava Gardner, I think was one, was discovered sitting at some soda fountain, and then she became a huge star. But he just said send for them. So it really wasn't overnight. It was like a few days later, maybe 2 or 3 days. And we got out there. We got there late at night. And by the morning, by like 5 in the morning, we had completely finished writing the song. It had been already started by somebody else, but it wasn't finished. And we finished the chorus, wrote a bridge for it, and played and sang everything, recorded the whole song that night. And that was it. It was done. And then was the big thing about the videos. They made one video for it. Samuel Goldwyn hated it. It We didn't look so great in it. Didn't have any scenes from the movie. It was just kind of eh. So he had us come back out and hired this crew called Sylvie and Lee, who I guess did all the Talking Heads videos, and they
Hmm.
were very, obviously very professional. And we had the best. My makeup artist was George Michael's girlfriend at the time, beautiful Chinese girl, and she did our makeup. She made me look like, well, you've seen the video, it also helps to have been that much younger too, but she made us look great in that video and picked out our clothes. They took us shopping, and it was the opportunity of a lifetime. It was really wonderful, to happen that fast. And it was just like, wow, you know, so it's great.
It's interesting. I was just looking through the credits for it while you were giving that explanation. I didn't realize this. I had interviewed Peter Elbling, who is, of course, in the Phantom of the Paradise, as one of the bandmates in that. Um, and he's in this.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is he in one of the music tracks?
No, he's the
He was
bookseller
in the
in
movie.
this. Yeah. So,
Oh, we
yeah,
didn't
bookseller.
we didn't the only person we met that was in the movie was we spent quite a lot of time in a bus, a tour bus, like trailer or whatever, dressing trailer, with Jim Carrey. And he really wanted to talk to us because he had started his comedy career in the Boston area. He was living out of a van. He's Canadian, isn't he?
Yep.
Yep, but he came to Boston area and he heard of Route One, which is about maybe 15 minutes from me. And there used to be tons of comedy clubs and these big clubs with entertainment up and down both sides of a big, like divided highway kind of. And that was like entertainment city back in the 70s and 80s and early 80s, late 60s, really, too. And he asked us about all these places like the Top Hat, this one, the Red, blah, 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 this, that, and we had to tell him, nope, every single one was closed. But he was working in those places, living out of a van, making like $25 a night. And he couldn't wait to ask us if any of those places were still open, but no.
I don't know what's going on with Jim Carrey today,
It's a little weird now, huh?
Yeah, kind of like what happened with Randy Quaid, although not that to those extremes, but
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with Jim Carrey. It's interesting because in the 80s he had Once Bitten and Earth Girls Are Easy and movies like that. It was the 90s where he really, especially 1994,
Was
you
that one
know,
on the pet
he had
detective?
Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, The
Late.
Mask, and one of my personal favorites, Dumb and Dumber.
Oh, I love that movie and the second one too.
Didn't care for the second one, but I did like
Oh,
I liked the first one. I've interviewed Lynn Shay, who is of course the woman that um that was there for the dog breeds and was very disappointed with how the dogs turned out. And
oh,
I interviewed the woman at the bus stop at the beginning of it too, which was really cool.
wow, wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Cool.
I remember seeing Dumb and Dumber when it premiered, at our old Kmart Plaza here. My brother and I saw it Friday night on premiere night, and remember that well. And of course, we went on. He did the Truman Show, which was fantastic, and
Oh yeah.
Man on the Moon. He really and Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. Like he really showed some range. I don't know why the Academy Awards did not recognize him for Truman Show because I think that is the best work he's done in terms of being an actor. But you know, um, but in the 80s, it's funny to say that because when you look at him in Once Bitten, he's very subdued compared to what he became in Ace Ventura talking out of his ass.
Yeah. Well, he was, I don't think he quite knew, you know, I think he knew at the time from things that he said though, that this was not the vehicle he had been looking for to launch him, and in fact, he thought it was kind of a little lowbrow and not, he didn't get to be funny in it that much, I think they didn't get him, the way. Well, then again, I'm sure he matured and changed with time too. But I'll tell you, just sitting around with him, he was a very funny guy all the time.
Well,
Unlike
there's a
some
lot promising.
comedians.
There's a lot promising stuff. There's a moment in the film where he's talking to his girlfriend there, Karen Coppins,
Yep.
and he says, "I thought I looked like De Niro," and he gives us kind of this look that
Yeah.
he actually did look kind of like Robert De Niro when he did that,
He
and I
was
was like,
he had a rubber face. He could do that.
yeah, he could do that. And um, I think, of course, he's playing the straight guy in this, but I also you see a lot of what's lingering in the horizon for him in this. I actually thought he was really good in Once Bitten, you
Yeah, I
know?
thought he was too. But I mean, he's not zany, crazy funny like he
Yeah.
ended up because they weren't giving him the freedom to do that. I think maybe he thought, or somebody told him he had to be a little more restrained, and it might not have fit the story as well or whatever. But I mean, I just thought it was a really pleasant, fun movie, and everybody, it was a feel good movie, and you smiled in it. It was, and it had a lot of good music in it. You
Oh
know.
yeah. Well, you see a lot of the physicality of Jim Carrey in that famous dance off in
Yes.
it where he's being pulled in two directions. And you see a lot of the stuff. You see a lot of what the future was for Jim Carrey in Once Bitten.
I think you're right.
Yeah. And Karen Coppins, I thought was stunning in it,
It
but
was
I
great.
always, to this day, found it funny when she gets kidnapped and they find her in this basement tied to a chair and she's got her legs crossed. Why does she have her legs crossed? Like it's such an uncomfortable thing to be tied up, and yet she's got her legs crossed. Like, well,
Have to go back and watch that now. I never even
I
noticed.
never forgot that.
That's funny. What different people will notice about something that I never noticed. I got to go back
Yeah,
and check that out now.
I never forgot that. Her legs are crossed, like
Wow.
one like knee over the other,
Yeah.
tied to
Like,
that
why would
chair.
anybody do that?
I found that. I never forgot that.
They wanted to show off her legs because they were nice. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, everything about her was nice.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Um, Beautiful woman. And speaking of, Lauren Hutton,
Oh,
she pretty much was the film, playing that vamp. I love the premise behind this film. She needs to find a virgin.
right.
And the whole joke about the film is, are there?
I know. Especially at that time, things
Yep.
have really changed, and young people just saw that as hysterical. Like really, you want a 12-year-old?
Well, she really she looked great in the movie, and very sexy, but very funny in it as well. And Cleavon Little, one of his last roles, playing
I
her
love
butler.
him. Don't you remember him in Blazing Saddles
Yep.
as the sheriff of Rock Ridge?
Yep.
Oh, do you know what? I got to tell you something about Lauren Hutton real quick. She drove the director crazy. She
Howard Storm.
Howard Storm. She drove him nuts because whenever they would have to redo a scene, whenever they shot a scene, everybody would take close up pictures of everybody to make sure that their hair, if they had to go back and cut something over again so that everything looked the same. And especially with her makeup, because she had things like purple eyeshadow, purple lipstick, whatever, she would go out of her way to keep a lipstick that was the wrong color in her pocket or someplace, where it wouldn't show in film or down her blouse or something. And she would, when they went to redo a thing, she would try to sneak a completely different color than what was on what they had used originally, just to see. And they said they caught it 90% of the time, but there's a couple things that later on they noticed, damn if she didn't get away with it. So I thought that was really kind of cool that she would do that.
Oh, she's great in this movie, and she has fun with it. And um, I also found it interesting is you got some Friday the 13th alum in this movie too. Stu Charno was one of the vampires. He was in Friday the 13th Part Two. Uh,
Wow.
Carrie Moore was in Friday the 13th, the final chapter, one of the twins. And I actually met her at Frightmare in the Falls last year. So I'm hoping to get her and her twin sister Camilla on the show here
Wow, that's
for
great.
that. And Dominic Brascia, who is no longer with us, was in the fifth film. So you three Friday the 13th alum in this movie.
Wow, I didn't know that either. Now I'm taking notes.
Yep, yep. But but nonetheless, I gotta point out the two fellows that played Jim Carrey's friends because they got a lot of laughs.
Yeah, they did. The guys
And
that
I
work
get
at the places flipping burgers and stuff, right? Those two guys in the truck, an ice cream truck or whatever.
I just thought it was funny. One of them had they're out cruising for women. One one of them pulls out this glove. He says, "Are you planning on inviting friends?"
Oh, a lot of things like that got lost. That I don't really know how many people would have even noticed that, but now that you bring that up, it's almost like when you think of some of the old TV shows from like the 60s, and they did have censors at the time, but some things were just new enough and just off the wall enough that these old guys had no clue what they should have been censoring, and they just let it go. So like the Beverly Hillbillies, you must have seen that show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But they had some things where I'm trying to think. Oh, there was a rhinoceros, or no, it was a hippopotamus that got loose from the zoo, and it was
Mhm.
in the Clampett's backyard. And so she said she thought it was Mr. Drysdale's, but it escaped from the zoo. And so she called somebody and she said, "You got to get this big hog of urine out of my backyard." And they just let that go. And there was another one where she was smoking crawdads, meaning like smoking them in a barbecue smoker, right? And but she said, "Yep, Granny, I heard you're going to smoke some crawdads." And she said, "Yes, I am, but first I got to get a little pot."
All funny stuff. Yeah, I remember there's two guys in the film, and one of them, of course, got stuck in a dryer and was flipping.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did. And I'm gonna tell you, they played this better than I would have. I would have been uncomfortable doing this, but boy, these two were pros when they're trying to figure out because they had to find out whether Jim Carrey had bites on his inner thigh. And of course, they're in the shower
Right.
trying to do everything they can to see if they can see those bites while trying to avoid looking
Like they're looking at,
like, yeah, because they're both straight males. And
yeah.
so they're trying to, that backfired on them.
Oh, that is funny. Those two guys were good. I thought they had the
Mhm.
perfect faces. They were just silly enough to, whenever they came on the screen, people just laughed. they just smiled. You couldn't help it. They were funny. They picked it up and ran with it, I thought, you know. Whatever
I'm trying.
happened to them?
I don't know. I'm looking them up here. I think it's Thomas Bellator and Skip Lackey. Are those the two, Jamie and Russ?
I don't know.
I don't know a lot of the names of the
I
characters
don't
in this
either.
movie, but
I don't either.
yeah.
I don't remember.
Okay.
Been a long time.
No, no, definitely. What was it like working with Howard Storm as a director?
He was great. We were supposed to have been, Samuel Goldwyn wanted the band to be in some scenes in the movie.
Hmm.
Well, it wasn't like, a prerequisite or anything, but he just made a suggestion. And so they spent like one whole day with the writers trying to figure out what to do. And there was going to be a scene where the two guys in the band were going to be in the ice cream truck with Jim Carrey and his friends. And I was going to be walking down Hollywood Boulevard walking a lion, which they have a model doing that in the movie anyway. But I wanted to walk that lion in the worst way. They said it would have taken too long with the costuming and changing the clothes and doing all that. It would have taken like a couple extra days of filming, so they said, nah, forget it, we'll just make an extra nice video of it, whatever. But they didn't. We got to sit in the trailer with Jim Carrey for most of the time, but we didn't get to be in any scenes of the film.
I remember when then again, I love the music that was playing too. And they showed all the stuff going on the street. You had a model walking a lion.
Yes, I was supposed to walk that lion, and I really wanted to do that. And then they ended up not, letting us be in the movie itself, and I was very disappointed.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you remember the lion on set?
No, never saw
No.
it. No, they filmed it another day. I think after we were already gone by then. Yeah, there was a nice idea that, to put the band in the film, but timing wise and probably money wise, it just wasn't going to work out. It wouldn't have been. It's like, why? The way I was told it pretty much is they couldn't think of any scenario where it would make even any sense to have the band, like, because you wouldn't even be seeing the video of us playing in the movie. So who are these people and
Well,
why are
they could have had you guys playing at the prom.
yeah, I suppose. But that would have been another whole staging thing with all the instruments rentals and all that stuff. You would have had to spend a lot more money, I'm sure. So, it wasn't a huge budget picture as it was, but no, Howard Storm, I remember we didn't get to interact really with him at all, but we did get to meet him for a short time. And I'll tell you, the professionals um, who are on these sets are just amazing. The camera operators, even for our video, were just amazing, top pros. And oh, it was a dream come true. And we did a lot of other songs for other movies, but not like that ended up being as well known as Once Bitten because of Jim Carrey, But
Yeah, I love the nightclub they go to. That's of course the nightclub where Jim Carrey first meets Lon Hutton. But
or the song is what the phones.
well, I love the phones, like I just thought all that was really cool.
And that was, we were lucky we got to have a song in that scene too.
Yeah.
So that was really cool.
I'm trying to think, do you have an IMDb on here? Because I want to see what other
I don't know. Oh, you want me to give you the list of movies that we had songs in?
yeah, well, I want to
Right.
expand on what else that you've done because I know you've done this and I'm familiar with Three Speed, but
Savage Streets is one with Linda Blair.
oh yeah, I'm familiar with that.
Savage Streets, Rad, which was about BMX bike racing.
Okay.
And we had a really good song in that movie, and that was very well attended movie. It was, it was a niche movie, for guys who are really into the skateboarding and the bike racing and all that kind of crazy stuff, especially BMX bike racing. That's what it was about. And then we did one with Jermaine Jackson and Pia Zadora called, it ended up being called Voyage of the Rock Aliens, but it was originally titled When the Rain Begins to Fall, because I think that was the name of a Jermaine Jackson song that was supposed to be in it. But
What
we had a
was
song in
what
that.
was Pia Zadora like?
We didn't get to meet her.
Oh, you didn't get to meet her?
Well, we just had to write a song. See, our the record company would, for a lot of these other things, we had nothing to do. They had signed us, and so they knew that we could write on demand. And everything they asked us to write, like write a song for this movie. This is what the scene is. It's got to be fast, slow, whatever it was, upbeat, blah blah blah. Sound like this, sound like somebody, and they'd name somebody kind of like that. And whatever we gave them, they loved it. So we got everything was accepted, which is a great, I mean, it was a great compliment to us as musicians and writers. So that was great. But um, the bad thing is then the record company didn't want us to, they didn't want to give us the money to put out a whole album of all our own songs. They just wanted to put all these songs that we wrote for the movies that came out on MCA Curb, whatever. And so it would have been just like mismatched songs that we wrote for different movies that had nothing to do with each other. So they just basically kind of jerked us around, and kept saying, well, we don't hear that next big hit yet. We kept sending more songs and more songs. And then finally, somebody said, I don't think they're paying attention. I think they don't want to give you the budget. They want to keep using you for movies. So I tried an experiment. I was just sitting here at my desk, like where I am right now. And I'm looking at a bill from my town right now. And the address is 10 Common Street. Well, so I was looking at that. And so I wrote to them after we'd sent them a few songs. I said, what did you think of 10 Common Street? That song. And then the person, A&R person I'm talking to says, oh, the lyrics were really good, but we didn't think it had the beat that we wanted. Or something. There was no such song. I did that with like three other things that I just found on my desk and made up the names of songs we never sent, and they just answered me the same way. Like, we don't hear that being a big hit. Maybe it will need a little more work or something.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the music business, and I'm
You
not
see,
alone. I've talked to other people about same thing was done to them too. So
I found Three Speed on YouTube, and there was a Once Bitten was on there and whatnot because I really wanted to get into the other songs that you've done.
somebody has a website, and I wish I could remember the name of it now. This is terrible. I should know all this stuff, but since my brother moved in with me, I'm overwhelmed with a lot of stuff. But some guy loved our songs, and I sent him master copies of all those songs from all those movies, and he put them all up on one website, and I don't know what the heck it's called, but it exists somewhere out there. If you
Well,
want the
talk,
names of the songs, that you might be able to find those.
yeah. No, but because I was researching you, because I wanted to go into your music as well, because otherwise it just makes me look unprepared. But I was coming up with closed doors there. But nonetheless, I do want to bring up Three Speed. Now, you said when you did Once Bitten, your band was called Imagine?
Image.
Image,
Image.
Image.
Well,
Okay.
we had to change the name because Image was a a more local New England band that did a combination of cover songs and our original material. And that was the band that traveled to Canada a lot. And we did these
Okay.
big college mixers and stuff like that. And we played Le Club in Montreal and stuff when that was big. I mean, that was a beautiful club on St. Catherine Street. And I don't know how many people it held, but the weekend before we were there, Peter Gabriel was playing there. So this was a big place. And we were saying like, oh, we've hit the big time. And we ended up playing the same night as, have you ever heard of Joe Frazier, the boxer, American
Yes.
black
Yes.
boxer? He had a
Yeah.
band called, I think, Joe Frazier and the Knockouts, or Knockdown the Knockouts, I think that was called. And we played with them at that club. And the place was packed. I think it was an old theater, because it had the graduated seats, but they had put tables in between every so many seats so people could put drinks on them and food or whatever. It was a beautiful place. And then, we played all the colleges in the area, and of course, I was nuts about playing in Canada because some of my favorite artists like Joni Mitchell and Diana Krall and oh God, I couldn't tell you how many people I loved from Canada.
Mhm.
Of course, but um, yeah, so we like being there. The one place we always wanted to play and we never got to play was Toronto.
I love Toronto. I want to move there so bad,
Really.
you
I
know.
heard it's good.
Yeah.
Somebody told me they serve more spaghetti there than in Rome.
I don't know, but I've lived here in New Brunswick my whole life, and I had no desire to travel. But when I started doing this podcast in 2015, I had a Canadian actress on here named Lisa Langlois, and she's been on twice. And on her second time on, we got talking about travel because she just moved back from Los Angeles back home to Toronto, and we got talking about travel. And she asked what was stopping me. She invited me to assist her at a horror film convention, and I could not say no to that.
Wow.
It was my first time on a plane. It was my first time really being anywhere really outside, any place in New Brunswick. And she's become a really good friend of mine and instrumental in me getting a passport. I've done 3 conventions with her, and if my I just had an eye operation. I had retina tear.
Oh, wow.
I had to operate it on the 30th of January.
How's it
Yeah.
going? Did they
Well,
fix
you know what? I'm starting to see like my hand and stuff like this. It's like looking through a bubble.
oh,
Before I couldn't see anything, but so they say it's supposed to be 6 to 8 weeks.
yeah.
The longest maybe 3 months, which would be pushing it because she's going to do a convention in New Jersey, Chiller. Um, uh,
What are those
and I
conventions? I would, Tommy, I know Tommy does a lot of that stuff and, with the movies and all that. And it's just so, it sounds so exciting and so much fun.
Yeah, well, she's going to do one there at the end of April, and I'm hoping this is healed up because I want to join her. She called me to tell me that, and I'd love to go to that one with her and make it my first American con. But
Wow.
yeah,
Now,
but
do you have to avoid planes because of the pressure while
yeah,
flying? Yeah.
yeah. So I'm hoping this will be healed enough so I can do that,
I wish
you
you a
know.
quick recovery.
Yeah. Well, I had done the operation was January 30th, so I'm like, I
Yeah.
go for a follow up on Wednesday, so I'm hoping that things are looking good and that this thing, I hope it heals by then because, like I said, I'm gonna be ticked off if this ruins that for me. I want to,
Oh,
yeah,
mm.
but nonetheless, um, what I was getting at though was you went from image to 3 speed. Now, where did the name 3 speed come from?
Because we went from a four-piece band down to three pieces.
Oh,
We had some changes and some problems, whatever, and um, you know, it just worked out that the bass player also played guitar, and while if he played guitar, he had a double neck, one with a bass, and you didn't see that in the video because we didn't bring it with us, but and if he was going to play guitar, I would play bass with my left hand, on another keyboard because I always had like three or four keyboards all around me. Um, so we changed the name and we said, what are we going to name a three-piece band? And thinking of the name of a band is like a torturous experience. I remember being a kid and you look through the dictionary, trying to pick names for a band. And we just figured, you know what? There's three of us. Well, let's just call it Three Speed.
mhm.
And I think somebody actually had thought of it first, and then we hadn't decided on what the name was going to be yet. And they just said, why don't you just call it that? And we said, you know what? Fine. it it didn't really mean anything except that there were three of us, and it was kind of a last minute change because we had just gotten signed now, and this was a whole new thing. So this would be all original, just stuff that we had written, and we were known by the name Image as a half cover band. So we wanted to make sure that that was separate. So
Um, yeah. How long did it take to shoot the video for Once Bitten?
a whole day. The
Just
second video, we did
okay.
two videos. We did two, and the first one we just did not look good. My makeup was garish, and they just showed us like pretending to play. in the middle of like nothing, and it looked like, I don't know, like my makeup was all dripping off. It was kind of like a horror movie kind of thing. It just didn't look good. So when we went back and had the real professional one done, we got in there. Oh my goodness, they had hand dyed. If you've watched the video, you know there's that scene where I pick up this, like, I think it's purple or pink. It was a complete, like maybe a 20-foot long thing of hand dyed silk. They had
Mhm.
those all hanging from the ceiling, and I just went around, and the camera was going around me like that, and I was supposed to pick it up and kind of twirl it around. And they did all this by hand. Um, Everything, they had the cameras on the tracks. This was a very expensive and very professional, video done by these people, Sylvie and Lee, Tina Sylvie and John Lee, I believe.
Mhm.
And they, like I said, they did, um, I think the Talking Heads video, most of the Talking Heads videos, and maybe the Motels. I'm not really sure of other people though, other famous people. And so we
Mhm.
lucked out. We lucked out with them. It was so professional, so comfortable. They made it easy for us, um, painless. We worked hard all day, and at the end of it, when we saw the finished product, we are saying like, "Wow, this is us." It was just really nice, really nice.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, after Once Bitten, let's talk about because I know you had, take care of your brother and whatnot. What's been going on? Once Bitten was 1985, so
I
what?
know,
That's a long, long
a
scoop,
lot, a lot.
you
Well,
know.
all those
But
other movie soundtracks and the jingles. Um, I had gotten into the jingle business because a friend of mine was doing it in New Hampshire, and he was very well connected. He was a Nashville writer and all this stuff. And the company he worked for hired me to, and the drummer from Three Speed, David Currier, to be writers and producers for jingles in this area from all over the country. They had salespeople that would talk to radio stations who talked to their clients that bought advertising from them. And if they bought enough advertising, they got a quote unquote free jingle, you know, by professionals, which was us and other people all around the country. And so we did over 1,000 of them. And we had these every week, and we went into production. We produced all kinds of other artists. I became a vocal coach, and we still wrote. Recently, we just had a promotion for a Jimmy Kimmel show that one of our songs got used in. And
oh,
so
cool.
there are still things happening, but nothing big, like, like no more big movies. We're old now. And I'm just actually happy to be singing for all the seniors now. And I do that like 4 or 5 times a week. It's for 1 hour, but I have to set up equipment and all that stuff. And then I still play gigs with one other guy. It's like a duo, and we have dinner dance things, whatever, and maybe some weddings occasionally here and there, but not so much that anymore. Since COVID, I lost every job I had for a year and a quarter in March of 2020. Everything was gone, everything. So, I had to completely reinvent. I made money by making activities. My drummer friend, who is my best friend too, that guy, Dave Currier. But by the way, that drummer in Three Speed, Dave Currier, he was the original drummer from the band Boston.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and he left because he couldn't stand Tom Schultz. We
Oh,
won't go into that because he'll probably sue you or me or both.
yeah.
So he's, yeah, not a nice guy. But anyway, so there was lots of stuff going on. We're still doing music to this day. We're still producing other people. I'm doing keyboard parts. Actually, I think you'll find this funny. An old friend of mine from the early 80s hired me to do all the background vocals, these choir vocals, for a very famous European heavy metal band named Warlord. So I'm doing all these like medieval choir vocals, like 30 tracks of vocals and stuff. And I do them right here from my home studio. And so that's, another interesting thing. I'm doing a lot of interesting things, but nothing, nothing big, like, like Once Bitten or being, associated with a movie, or people like Jim Carrey. But it's still very rewarding anyway. It's still music, and I'm still playing, so I'm happy.
You ever sing Jim Carrey a jingle?
No, we tried to get in touch with him a couple times, but it's next to impossible. And you know, yeah, I
What
just
about Lon Houghton? She could use a jingle.
she could use a jingle. If she comes out with a product, I'll do a jingle for her, like some beauty product. I'll do a beautiful jingle for her. You know.
Yeah, and Karen Coppins, I don't know where she went after Once Bitten. She was
I
in
thought
a
after
couple.
that she was going to get all kinds of roles because she was very good in it, and she's beautiful. She had a nice way about her. I thought her acting job was just great for the movie, and she had one of the funniest lines in the movie. Face it, right? You know what I'm talking about? Like, yeah.
Well, she needs a jingle.
If you get in touch with her and have her on here, you can send her my way and say I'll do a free jingle for her. That would be fun. Oh my goodness.
You ever sing Once Bitten to the seniors?
Uh, a couple times. Couple times, well, you'd be surprised. I get requests from these. I do some like kind of really fancy like senior residence places where there's people anywhere from the late 50s to the 80s, to their 80s, and it's like an independent living. It's not, they don't need that much help, or part of it is assisted living. But anyone can go to the entertainment. I have had requests for AC/DC, which I do, and I've had requests for Journey songs, which I've done, and I've done Once Bitten. I have the backing track.
Here's
What
a
we
question.
Yeah.
Here's a question. What AC/DC songs have you been asked to do? I'm gonna guess. Have you ever been asked to perform Big Balls?
No, no, but in a nursing home situation, I don't think it would be appropriate. But I did do "You Shook Me All Night Long."
What's that?
I did do "You Shook Me All Night Long." She was a fast machine. She kept the motor clean. It's like,
You didn't sing Big Balls or Love at First Feel?
no, no, I didn't think it would be
You don't
appropriate.
you think that would go well in old folks home?
No, I think I probably would have been fired, but that's hilarious. I would kill everybody who asked that.
Oh, those were off the Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap album.
That
I
was a
remember the
great,
I
yeah,
remember the first time I heard the song Big Balls, I'm like, somebody recorded that.
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. They yep.
But but yeah, have you ever had one that you were requested you found difficult to do?
Difficult, like I couldn't sing it, or like I wasn't able to hit the notes or something like that.
Yeah.
Um, they asked me for Barbara Streisand, and I do Barbara Streisand, but certain ones because I'd say I'm more of a rock and R&B singer, but I do Celine Dion. One of the big requests is that the "Sink the Ship" song. My heart will go on. And I can hit the high notes at the end of that. Some Whitney Houston, yeah, still can do that. Because I sing every day at full volume, I can still sing pretty much the way I could back then when I did the movie. But so that's a good thing. When they say use it or lose it, that goes to the human voice quite a lot. Like listen to Tony Bennett, just a couple of years before he died, he still sounded as good as ever, and he was 95 or something. And
Did
Alzheimer's is what did him in. It wasn't he didn't lose his voice. He was still working.
they ever ask you to sing I Kissed a Girl by Katy Perry?
No, but I did get a request for California Girls one time. I didn't have that.
I'm throwing some very wicked ideas your way.
I know, yeah, you don't, I'm taking notes, I got my,
I'm like, you're gonna corrupt those old folks people.
well, see, I'm game for them. They have activity directors in them that are a lot younger, and we have a lot of fun with them. If they say it's okay for me to do it, like, speaking of which, I just mentioned Tony Bennett, that no reason except for I was talking about how he kept his voice, but I did a Tony Bennett song for a request to somebody, and then they said, "We love the album that he did with Lady Gaga." And then somebody else yelled, "Do you do any Lady Gaga?" And I asked the activity person, I said, "Can I do Lady Gaga?" And I did 3 of them. and they loved it. They all got
What
up and danced.
what songs?
I did Poker Face,
Mhm.
uh, Just Dance, and um, uh, 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 oh, I don't remember.
I
Oh,
like that one. I'm gonna screw the name up. Aligondo or whatever they call
oh,
that.
Alejandro, Alejandro.
Alejandro. Yeah,
That's
I
the other
like
one I
that.
did. Alejandro, Alejandro. Yeah,
I
yeah.
love that. Lady Gaga's pretty cool. She is really cool.
Very
And
talented.
yes, she is. I've heard good things about her in terms of her fan and interactions as well. So,
That's good to know because, a lot of times we opened up for people, and um, when you open up for other famous people that you loved and admired, and then you find out that some of them are total jerks, it kind
mhm.
of ruins your whole vibe for that band or people. Well, one thing you might be interested in is we opened up for Pat Benatar.
Oh, you know what? I've been trying to get her on here.
Oh, that would be wonderful. She was great, and her husband was
Yeah.
great. Um, but we played. They never should have. Management should never book an opening act with another female in it for a top female singer act, because it's
Hmm.
just comparisons. I mean, even if it's not even apt, because almost every band has a guy singer, and the opening act almost always has a guy singer, lead singer. But this time it did not work out well for us because we did our opening act, and then
Hmm.
she came on and she did her first song, which was one of her big hits. And all these people, guys in the front row at the end of the song went, "Bring back the blonde, bring back the blonde." That was the end of any chance of going on full tour with them.
Oh, I was gonna ask, if you met Pat and what
Oh,
she was
yeah, she
like.
was great. She was great. She was wonderful to us. And the whole band was, the drummer was a little odd, but
I
but
love that pixie haircut she had,
she was adorable and so friendly and so talented, and it was just a great band, and the songs were great. We were
I
really
tried to get her on here and I went through Facebook and I was told to go through, I was given the contact info for her management. And the guy I don't remember his name, but I feel like,
well. She's working now with her husband. They do. I
well,
saw
I
them.
felt like I was being jerked around by this guy and looked down on by him. It's like
Wow.
I've had Tony Basil on here, I've had Tiffany on here.
Wow.
I haven't yeah, I haven't mistreated anybody. And it's like I get tired of these people, these management that look at me like, how many followers you have? How many? I don't know. It's like
I
I'm doing an interview and you're either going to you can come on and be treated well,
Right.
you know.
Honored just that you asked me to be on, because I'm really nobody. I mean, I had some success. I mean, local people know me, and New England area maybe know me. Some people, I have fans on YouTube, as hundred thousands of watchers now, and I'm getting people signing up a lot lately with great comments. I mean, so many years after 1985 that I'm
Yeah.
just kind of blown away. And so I am just so thankful that anybody's paying attention at all. And that's why, when I say thank you so much for having me on, I really mean that,
You
because
know what?
you know
Thank you for coming on because I mean, like I said, this is a nice trip down memory lane for me, and when Tommy mentioned you were the singer for Once Bitten, that song, I was like, I knew exactly. I knew exactly. Um,
uh,
I know I tried to find some other your music on there, and your YouTube, I found your YouTube, but nonetheless, I think we did well on this interview, and I would like to ask, do you have any charities that you're involved with, and would you like to plug any website or social media?
well, I personally donate to animal rights organizations like
Hmm.
ASPCA and cancer. Anybody that and the Alzheimer's Association, for memory loss people, because I sing for so many of them. I have sung, from Dave Currier, the drummer from Three Speed, his day job for the last, since Three Speed, he was the head Alzheimer's trainer for a whole nursing home company called Life Care Centers of America, which owns over 300 nursing homes. And he was the Northeast Alzheimer's expert for 25 of them. And that's how I ended up starting to sing for seniors. And he's still performing for them too. And we're still, entertaining them. Those people need music more than anybody, I think, in their lives, and they, every time, no matter how crappy I might feel when I walk into one of those jobs, physically or whatever, or I'm tired or my brother's giving me a hard time or some kind of silly thing. When I leave there, I feel like $1,000,000 because you made people happy. You
Mhm.
see smiling faces and they're all, enthused about things, and I'm doing requests for them. And if I can do like a lot of the songs that they want, that makes me happy. That's all, so life has changed a lot, but it's music, still music, and it's still my life, so I can't complain, really.
I was just thinking right now, I should have you come back on with your drummer.
I think he would love that.
I think I would like to do that.
And he's got a lot of other experiences he could tell you about, like with Boston and all the other stuff, because he was involved with all this with me too. But
Mm.
he got involved in other ways, and he remembers things that I don't. Things talking to Jim Carrey. The guys were
Well, the thing
together.
is, I would love to get you both on here. I'd love to talk about that stuff with you both, but I would love to really get you both on here and get a sense of your connection, your friendship. And that was just going through my head right now, having you
Best
two
friends
both
since
on here.
'73.
Well, you know what? I was 1 years old that year.
Like I said, we're old.
You're 39. Come on. He
Yeah,
might be old, but you're 39.
I've been 39 many times.
I'll tell you what. Do you want to get in touch with him and maybe we can arrange something and have you both on here on a Zoom.
I think he would absolutely love that. He comes
I
and
would love
stays
that.
here. He comes and stays here 1 week a month. While he lives way up in Maine now, but he's retired. He used to work down here, doing the nursing home, the Alzheimer's thing. So
Uh-huh.
now that he's retired, he and his wife have a beautiful house in Maine, and he comes down and does work with me for many clients. He does all the drum parts for many clients. We go in
Uh-huh.
studio, either my studio or a big studio where he can play, not real drums, not the electronic ones, but real drums. And we still do that, and we still produce other people and all that. And I told him I was going to do this, and he was very excited for me. And I think he would just be knocked out to do something like
Well,
that.
then let's do it. Let's do it. When
Hey,
we can either do it with you guys on separate screens, or we could do it when he's down there visiting you.
that
Which
would be
would you prefer?
perfect. I'll have him sit right next to me.
Why not? Let's do that. Let's do that.
I'll get
That just came to me right now, and I thought, you know what? There's another story to be told right there.
That's great. And I will send you a list of when he's going to be here and when would be, they'll like 4 nights or so a month. That would be, I'm sure, perfectly at this time would be perfect for the two of us to do that. And boy, he's going to be so knocked out about that, just like I was, to be asked.
You
And really,
know what? Let's do it. Let's do it because
thank you. That would be awesome.
I would love to have you two on here and just get a sense of your friendship, your connection. And yeah, we could talk about the music and Once Bitten and stuff like that.
He's very funny. He's going to make relentless fun of me, but you'll love it though, because he's a very funny guy.
Well, you tell him that I want you two both on here together.
Yeah, I will.
I think that would be awesome. If you want to do it in March, we can do it in March. If you want to do it in April, we can do it in April. I'm good to go. Just let me know what dates, and you're an hour behind me, so that works. Nobody knows where we are here in New Brunswick. That's one of the big frustrating things about this province, is nobody
Wow.
knows where Atlantic Canada is, you know. Yeah, we're an hour ahead of
Oh,
East Coast.
yeah, well, Dave Courier, you're gonna really like him. All his relatives are from Prince Edward Island.
Oh, really? Well, we certainly know where that is.
Yeah, and I was just there last year. My best girlfriend and I. took a trip there. I was married. My husband passed away. He had a another terrible story, but I'm not going to go into it. He had a brain hemorrhage and was in the hospital from 2006 to 2018
We
when he
got a
passed
prime minister that's got a brain hemorrhage, but not the same thing.
away. Right. I know. I got the impression in the first 2 minutes that you do not like him very much.
I'm not impressed. No,
Well, I
no.
like the president I have right now, and I want to keep him. I just don't want to go back to the orange guy. But anyway, you can cut that out if you need to.
You mean Garfield? You said our orange.
The Donald. Oh, I cannot. I'm glad we're not live because that would
Donald
be
Duck? Well, yeah,
sick.
we're live. We're still live. No, we're not live, but we're recording. But yeah, Donald Duck, yeah. I
Yeah.
wouldn't want him for president either. I can't understand him when he gets angry.
He's a pathological liar and a malignant narcissist and everything else. And don't even get me started because I won't stop.
Politics just does that, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And I try when I talk about music, I don't want to think about people like him. It just came out. Sorry. Okay, we'll start over.
No problem, no problem. But yeah, you tell your drummer that we'll have you both on here together, and we'll try to arrange that. If you want to do it next month, we can do it
I'd love
next
to
month.
do it next month. That would be great.
Well, then let's do it.
Right.
That
Excellent.
will be great. I think that would be wonderful, you know? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. That gives that I never thought that was going to come out of this, but I sometimes when I'm doing interviews, there's other things just going through my head, you know. It's like there's something there. Let's do that.
Well, I hope it'll be enjoyable. And he is very funny. I think
Oh,
you'll
I have no doubt. This interview, I think the only thing I was nervous about doing this interview is I was not able outside Once Bitten, I was having a hard time finding your music.
You know
But
what? You should let me just rattle this off so you can look later. I guess the name of the song in the movie Rad is called "Wind Me Up." If you look that up, you can. I'm sure you can find that. Wind Me
okay,
Up. The When the Rain Begins to Fall. Um, uh, the song. I'm sorry. The song on Savage Streets was called "Back on the Streets," and that was written by Vinnie Vincent, who actually was in Kiss for a while. He was
okay,
the last version of Kiss before when they stopped wearing makeup for a short time and then they went back to makeup. And he had written a lot of songs for other people. And the Vinnie Vincent Invasion, that was a big LA band that he had. And so yeah, there's a lot more stuff, to the rock and roll world, that I guess I've been a little involved with. But if you could find those songs, um, I think Back on the Streets, from Savage Savage Streets, Back on the Street, and Wind Me Up from Rad.
okay. All right. Well, we'll be in touch because we got to book that for next month. I think that would be great. You let him know, and yeah, I think that'll be phenomenal.
I'll do that, and thank you so much for having me, Greg. I really enjoyed this very much.
Absolutely. Before I let you go, I would love it if you did a plug for my show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just state your name and say you're from Three Speed
Mhm.
and say you're listening to Greg Gilbert on Python's Paradise.
Okay.
Go for it.
All right. This is Linda Chase from the band Three Speed, and we sang the song Once Bitten from Jim Carrey's movie. And we are live with Greg Gilbert on Python's Paradise.
Absolutely. You did that perfectly.
Thank you. I wrote jingles, remember?
And boy, oh boy, you got cool hair.
Oh, thank you.
You keep rocking that hair.
Thank you. Keep rocking that head thing. That's very
Well,
cool.
that head thing is on there because I don't have any hair. I don't have any hair. Well,
There you go.
there you go.
But it's nice and shiny.
Well, my cat likes to rub against it, and he's hiding.
Oh, you get cat?
I got a kitty.
I love cats. Oh, Dave Curry is going to love you. We both love cats like unbelievably.
Gee, I wonder if I can find him before I let you go. You just give me
Oh,
a second.
Oh,
I'll,
I'd love to see him.
I'll let you see Skittles.
Oh, that's a cute name.
Yeah. Hi, Skittles. Skittles, you're being summoned. I know you're related to the King of Beasts, the lion. This is
Oh,
Skittles.
oh, he's beautiful.
Skittles is like, you're exploiting me. You're using me for hits. This is exploitation.
Yeah, but you know what? There's a lot of cat lovers out there who are gonna love this. Hi,
Oh, I
Skittles.
love my kitty.
Hi, Skittles.
Skittles is like, does she have treats? Does she have treats?
Oh, I had two, brother and sister, Yogi and Boo Boo.
Yeah.
That's, and whenever I'd come home from a gig, all I'd have to do is walk in the front door and say, Yogi, Boo Boo, want to eat or want some cheese? And they come, you hear them running down the hall.
Skittles said if he was around back then, it would have been him instead of that lion in that scene.
Oh, he's beautiful. And he's so, look at him. He's just so calm and friendly.
He's like, yeah, he's so embarrassed. I got him on the floor now. He's gonna rub against my finger.
Does he know he was on camera?
No, I actually on YouTube I have um, a playlist of Skittles on there.
Oh, I'm gonna have to go look for that.
Yeah, yeah, I got my stuff on YouTube and I got it on Spotify because YouTube's become spotty for me because they pulled one of my interviews
Why?
because, and this was strange. We had a very casual conversation about the pandemic.
Right,
I didn't know what the pandemic was like where she was.
right.
And I just casually, yeah, what's it like where you are? How are you dealing with it? Blah, blah, blah. We weren't telling people to get the jab or not to get the jab. And I get this message that the interview got pulled because of misinformation on health or something like that. And I'm sitting there,
Really?
yeah.
Wow.
So that put a strike against the channel. And I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I now I got Spotify.
You know what kills me? With all the crap that you find out there, talk about misinformation about the American political thing. I'm telling you, that's nothing compared to what I've heard.
Yep.
Doesn't
And you
get
know
old.
what? There was not a thing wrong with that interview. But I mean, it'll be on Spotify,
Good.
you know, and eventually, when I get Rumble figured out, I'll do that too, you know. There's other platforms because I have, like I said, I can't, they say you can only have three strikes against your channel. I'm like, well, okay, well, I got one. I'll just, I'll let it play out and,
And there's no way to appeal.
well, I tried to appeal it, and I don't know whether an actual person or a robot got back to me saying I lost the appeal. I was like, did you actually listen to it? It's like, tell me where there's misinformation on. Like, I hear our prime minister give misinformation all the time online.
Yeah.
Let a
Yeah.
Nazi into the friggin' common house, and
That sounds like Trump. Sorry.
yeah, well, yeah, and this whole carbon tax crap that they're throwing at like enough's enough. They want to put something off of the internet. I don't think there's much I'm doing that's going to cause any.
Yeah,
But nonetheless, there's other platforms besides YouTube if worse comes to worse.
that's right.
And,
Good. Good for
and I
you.
have I have all my interviews um uh saved on uh little
Cloud. What?
yeah, yeah. I got
Yes,
them
you have
saved.
access to everything, so you can always put them back up wherever, whatever
Yep,
new platform comes up, right? So that's
yep.
good. Yep.
Because I'm not dealing with that kind of stuff. So
Yep.
yeah.
That's a, I'm really sorry to hear that about, you know,
Yep. But I still have that interview, and like I said, it'll come up on Spotify, or maybe it's up now. I don't know, but
good.
um, yeah. But nonetheless, it was wonderful having you come on here tonight, and I look forward to having you and your drummer. What's his name again?
Dave Courier.
Dave Courier. We look forward to having you and Dave on here, possibly next month.
That would be great. I'll see what we can work out and we'll plan for that. I'll let you know when he's going to be here. I don't even have that information yet, but as soon as I do, then that would be so fantastic. Thank you so much for asking. I mean,
Yes, absolutely.
he'll go
No,
nuts. He's going to freak out.
well, you know what? I'm freaking out too. I love the idea of it too. So yeah, absolutely. I think it'll be fun and to have you two both on here and talk about your music collaboration and your friendship. And I think there's definitely something there.
Thank you so much. And you're very easy to talk to. I really enjoyed this. I can't tell you. I was a little nervous because I was thinking, what are they going to ask me? But you made me totally at ease and it's just like you're in the room with me. So this is great.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I bid you a wonderful night
Same to you.
and oh, what was I was gonna ask? Oh yeah, you making supper tonight?
No, you can ask me 10 more minutes from now too. I have my ringer off, but if I showed you, I got all these calls from him already saying, "Are you making dinner tonight?"
Oh well,
And I told him already like 3, 4 times, all throughout the day that I'm not making dinner tonight. Remember, you're on your own for dinner tonight. Blah blah blah. I'm doing a Zoom interview, and what's a Zoom interview? Oh, okay.
there you go. There you
So,
go.
yeah, when this comes out and everything, I'll let him watch it. Everything he'll like it.
There you go.
Oh,
Absolutely.
all right. Well, thank you again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. God bless. Oops. God bless, and you have yourself a wonderful evening.
You too, Greg. Nice to see you. Thank you.
Absolutely. Bye bye.
Bye.